You are listening to the Lawyer Stories podcast with host Benny Gold. Lawyer Stories was founded in July 2017 on Instagram and is an expanding global network of lawyers and law students sharing their personal journeys to the noble profession of the practice of law. Join us on this podcast as we dig deeper into these stories and hear from lawyers and law students from around the world in all areas of the legal profession. Here at Lawyer Stories, we believe that every lawyer has a story. What's yours?
Episode 19 is sponsored by LawFlex. LawFlex is a new law company with a pool of over 400 talented lawyers qualified in 23 different jurisdictions available for legal research, due diligence, e-discovery, contract and regulatory work across the ocean. LawFlex lawyers can do your legal work on weekends or at night due to the time zone difference. And the best part is that the quality is high and the rates are low.
Welcome to the Lawyer Stories podcast with Benny Gold, episode 19. Today we have a pleasure of an international guest, currently in Tel Aviv, Israel. Welcome, Jackie Donner. Did I pronounce that correctly?
You absolutely did. Thank you very much for hosting me. Great to be here. Yeah,
no, we're super excited to hear about your journey and to hear about LawFlex, who, by the way, I just want to tell everybody out there, Zohar and yourself have been super cool to work with, communicating with. So I really appreciate your company and already how awesome you guys have been. So I've been really anticipating this podcast and episode. So I just want to say thank you to you and everybody at LawFlex, Zohar. So
great. Thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah, for sure. So this is Lawyer Stories. So before we get into LawFlex, which is a pretty amazing company that you're the CEO and co-founder of, I'm very interested in your journey. Where are you from, first of all? What country are you from?
Originally from South Africa, and I moved to Israel when I was quite young, and then moved to London, and then was there for 12 years in England, and then back to Israel. So I moved around quite a bit, and married to somebody Swedish. So
really? So he's there. Okay. So you're in Israel now. You're in Tel Aviv. That's very interesting. So at what point did you say in your life where you're like, okay, I'm going to enter the legal profession?
So quite late. Where I come from, law is a first degree. So both in Israel and in England, you would do law as a first degree as opposed to the US. And I did my undergraduate degrees in history, politics, Middle East studies. So I only pivoted later on to law.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So what the schools you went to are very interesting to me, like Tel Aviv University. I think it was is it University of Oxford? And so can you just tell us, and for me, because I'm personally very interested, what it was like to attend and be matriculated at those schools, like Tel Aviv and Oxford. What was the schooling like there?
So the three schools I went to were Tel Aviv University, then London School of Economics in London, and then Oxford. And all three of them were very different. So I think both Tel Aviv and London School of Economics are in big cities, London and Tel Aviv. And it's an off-campus experience. So you just come in, it's like a job. Like you come into school and then you go home to your apartment and you have your life outside of university.
Interesting.
And Oxford University was very much a campus experience. Like everybody who's there are students, you're living at the university. All of them had different advantages, and I loved all three experiences.
So Oxford, you must have people from every country. It must be super diverse. Is that correct?
Yeah, LSE too, and also actually Tel Aviv University. But Oxford, we had all the Rhodes Scholars from the US. I actually met Clinton because his daughter was studying there at the same time as me.
Oh, really? Okay. So Chelsea was there at the same time as you? So how did you meet? So how did you meet Bill? Like while he was, or Mr.
He was
Brent?
there visiting her and playing American football with some of the Rhodes Scholars. So.
Really, he was.
Yeah.
So were you playing in the game, or did you just go up to him?
No,
And
I
say, hey?
just came and said hi.
Oh, that's cool. Wow. All right. What about Chelsea? Did you know her on campus, or?
And so we weren't friends. She was in a different program to mine, but saw her around.
Okay. All right. Very good. Interesting. So what did you, so after that, so after your educational experience at these amazing schools and programs, you got into law. Like, did you go to you were a trainee solicitor, or like, can you tell us a little bit about that?
In England, you half of the people that they take to be lawyers to law firms have not studied law, which is really interesting.
Wow. Okay.
So at Oxford, for example, I did a master's in Middle East studies, and then they sponsor you. So that's when I got hired. I hadn't even done a day of law studies, and I got hired by one of the top 5 law firms in England called Freshfields.
Okay. Wow.
And they hire you based on like your degree and what you're studying, and then they sponsor you to become a lawyer. So they pay you to go and study law.
That says a lot, though. I think that really says a lot. I mean,
yeah,
you're not even in law school yet. You're just like a super smart person who's at like a really good school, and they're like, this person has potential. I'm going to sponsor you to go to law school, but you're going to be part of our firm, right? Is that sort of?
Exactly. And it's amazing because they purposely want a mix of those people. They want people who've studied different things because they think they make a certain type of lawyer, and people who've gone to law school and studied law because they make a certain type of lawyer. So they want, none is better than the other, but they just want the mix of the two types of people. So it's really interesting. Yeah.
Wow. So they like see something in you, like maybe before. Do you have to apply to those? Is that what happens? You apply to the internship?
Yeah, you apply, you go for interviews. You have to have like obviously good grades and be at one of the top universities, and then they interview you, and if you get in, they sponsor you. So they pay you like a partial salary, and they pay for your law school.
So what happens if you don't like law, like, or if you perform poorly? Do you know? I mean, obviously you didn't, but like, what do you know? What the first?
So there's probably, I can't remember. There's probably a clause where you can pay them back.
Okay, all right, right. But it worked out for you, obviously. So, yeah. So how'd it go from there? Like after being at.
So then after Oxford, I went to do this conversion to law. It's called a conversion.
Conversion to law. Okay.
Yeah. And then and it's like a crash course in law. So you do it in a year. And then you do another year, which is like practical studies.
Beautiful. Yeah. I mean,
mm-hmm.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Jackie. Go ahead.
And then in England, you do your training contract, which in the US, I don't think you have. So you're a trainee for 2 years at a law firm.
So the reason I said beautiful is because you spoke of, you go to school for a year and then you get some practical experience, correct? Right. Is that what you said? Right. So I feel like that might be what's missing in the US, but we're not here to really talk about today, because I think everybody really needs to get some practical experience before they get out there in the job force trying to get a job. A lot of it's theoretical, but it sounds like after a year in the US, like people are looking for that big firm to get into for that summer associate position. And then law school is another 2 years, but you guys sort of jump into the practical portion of it by second year.
Yeah. Isn't Google doing something like that? Not with law, but with hiring people who haven't even been to university yet. And they're like,
you're doing that?
Yeah, I read that somewhere. They're like revolutionizing the job market by hiring people before they study and then training them.
Really?
Rather than, yeah.
Okay.
Where it goes. Yeah.
You'll have to send me that article.
Yeah, I will.
All right. So, okay, cool. So you went through, all right. So then you get into a law firm, right? So did you actually practice for a little while at a big firm?
Yeah, so I was at Freshfields. As a trainee, I went through different departments. So you have 6 months in every department. And I got to do great secondments. I was at Morgan Stanley for a while. I was at Fidelity. And then afterwards, I was in the corporate department.
Okay, so what did you like the most and dislike the most about that experience?
So it's one of those things that I wish I could go back and do again, because I would appreciate it in a completely different way.
Right. I know. Right.
Yeah. It's like, it was so enriching and unbelievable opportunity to just learn and grow. I don't think, like, at the time, it's like they say, youth is wasted on the young. Like, I don't think at the time I appreciated it as much as I would if I were doing it again. But just incredible caliber of people, clients, information, learning opportunities. It was
What do you think you would have done differently?
I would have focused more and absorbed more. So I would have probably chosen a different expertise. And I also would have, at the time, like, we had to go home at 1 o'clock at night, and it was like disaster. You were exhausted. And now I'm thinking, I have 3 kids. Now I'm exhausted. Then I know. It's like, you get 5 hours sleep a night. That's amazing. So I would have just been more serious about learning as much as I could, rather than trying to get home all the time. Right.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of people, they look back on things that they wish they would have approached differently. So that's,
yeah,
I get it.
And it's something I tell young lawyers now all the time, is like, take this as like, this is your time. It's a gift. When you're a trainee or when you're a young lawyer at a firm, like, you should be paying them. You're learning. You're not contributing anything, just
I know.
Take what you can. Yeah.
100%. Totally. Yeah. So you go through that, and now we're going to go into LawFlex, which I've been to your website. Looks like a really interesting company and everything that you're doing there. So what made you find and co-found and be the CEO of this company?
Yeah. So after working at Freshfields, I came back to Israel, and I worked at another corporate firm, a great firm called ERM. And when I had my children, I started to work more from home, and basically did LawFlex, but as a single person. So I would provide firms with assistance from home. And I realized that I could work a lot less and earn a lot more, and do it from the comfort of my home. And I saw a lot of my friends hemorrhaging from big law at a similar stage to me.
Right.
These were people who had put years into their careers, super talented lawyers who just couldn't keep up with the hours and the demand of law firms. So I thought, well, if it works for me, why not scale it? And today we're 450 lawyers that are working that way. Yeah.
Wow. And where are they all from? Like, are they mostly based in Israel?
So about 90% of them are based in Israel.
Okay.
And they're qualified in 21 different jurisdictions.
Okay.
And I was lucky to be in Israel, because it's a bit of a quirk in the market, because you have talented lawyers from all over the world who make aliyah, which is move to live in Israel.
Yep.
And they do it not because it's a good career move, but because of a lifestyle choice. So they want to live in Israel, and that's why they move here. And law is one of those professions that are not so transferable. So you can be a super talented, well-qualified litigator or real estate lawyer, and it's not a skill that you can transfer. So we picked up on that at LawFlex. Yeah.
Wow. So you were sort of doing something similar before you founded LawFlex, like you were doing work at home? Is that?
Yeah, I was doing it, just myself, doing it for myself.
And this is before you had the company, you started the company?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Got it. So why would attorneys want to come to LawFlex to sign up with you all for a placement?
So 2 reasons. First of all, more and more of the job market is moving towards freelance. It's a lifestyle choice. People want to control their time. And it's not necessarily that they want to work less. They just want to work different.
Right.
So they want to come home at 3 and be with the family and start working again at 10. or they want to stop working for 3 months because it's summer holiday and they want to go traveling.
Right.
So people want to control their time, which is invaluable.
So that's an interesting point. And we had this, I don't know how Israel honestly was impacted by COVID, but, or if you guys are on like Aware or Alert or whatever, but a lot of people are working from home now. So like, do you think that might be like that might be positive actually for LawFlex, because people are sort of seeing how positive it is to be working at home, and they might like working at home as a result of that. And so maybe they'll turn to a company like LawFlex and say like, okay, I'm going to register and see if I can get some work.
You're absolutely right. So from a client point of view, whereas before we had to convince clients that it's viable, we don't need to prove that anymore. People know that working remote is fine, and we've been doing it now for 4 years and it works. And the second thing is why COVID has been good for businesses like ours is that before you would go and say, I have talented lawyers, and guess what? They're also a lot cheaper, which was not so important to general counsels. But now they are interested in cost saving. Like most businesses around the world have been affected by COVID, and they do want to cost save. So suddenly we're a lot more interesting for them.
Right. So it actually has helped a little bit. What is it like there actually in Israel with COVID?
So we started off doing really well. Numbers were low, but because of that, the market was opened very fast, too quickly, and now the numbers are bad. So there's been not a second lockdown, but the numbers are high.
Okay. So like what's the advantage to a firm or company to use LawFlex?
So a few advantages. One, and first and foremost, is cost. Our costs are around a third of the cost of law firms.
Okay.
A second advantage, especially for US firms and companies that we work with, is the time difference. So we're able to pick something up at night and have it on your desk in the morning. And that's the same for weekends. So we work on Sundays. It's not our weekend. So we're able to work at reasonable rates and produce on the weekend. And the third is that we're very strict in vetting talent. So there's
How do you do that?
Sorry?
How do you vet the talent that comes in? Like if somebody, first of all, like how do you apply to be like an attorney? You're an attorney, you're licensed, you want to have LawFlex because you want to get some firm work. Like what does somebody do to apply?
So there's a link. It's join.lawflex.com.
Okay.
And you just fill out your details there. Everything now is automated. So if you pass the first stage, then there's a video, an online video. And if you pass that stage, we do a reference check. And if you pass that stage, then we send you the contracts and you sign up with LawFlex.
Wow. So you really do have a vetting process. What's the video like? What's that all about?
It's great because it used to, this was quite revolutionary for us because it used to take an hour and a half. We used to have people come in and sit with them and interview them. And it was a big time suck. And now I think it's about 8 or 10 minutes, and it's so efficient and you really get a feel for the candidate. And definitely the way that interviews and HR is going.
So firms should take note that you're not just taking any old person that says, I need like a temporary legal job. Like you're legit vetting these people. You're having a video conference with them. They're filling out an application. You're looking where they're coming from, looking at the skills, and then you place them accordingly.
Yeah, absolutely. Our acceptance rate is about 8%.
8%. Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So like how many you get, like what? How many applications do you get and how many do you take from?
So we get tons and tons of applications.
So that's amazing for, a company. That's really great.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Congratulations. So like what are the rates like for firms? Like what are you charging the firm? I know it's sort of like
there's quite a big range, but for sure our rates are very competitive, especially when it's cross borders. So it's sort of like a labor arbitrage model.
Yep.
I mean, things like due diligence, document review are lower down on the scale.
Right.
And then we do also corporate work, commercial work, taxes, all sorts of work. But it's usually around a third of law firm rates.
Okay. Wow, that's amazing. So, like, where do you see LawFlex going? Like, are you going to expand other countries, or like, where do you see it in a few years?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now our sweet spot is large scale deals and the labor arbitrage issue. But what we're doing more and more of, and where I see us going, is international expertise. So we have companies in Switzerland asking us for experts in, Hong Kong securities law.
Wow.
So our expertise is connecting between jurisdictional experts and general counsels. And I see that being our direction, especially because I think also in the next few years, a lot of legal tech is going to take over the bulk work. And generally, I think the direction of the market is going to be more towards lawyers, human lawyers doing like the expertise work.
Right. Wow. So like everybody out there must be like, who's listening to this podcast, must be saying, or watching the video, because we will be on YouTube as well. Must be saying like, wow, so is this like a threat to like law firms, and like, should law firms be worried, like big firms, that you're taking away talent just so people can be, have a flexible life schedule? How do you respond to that?
I mean, that's a good question. Look, legal is set to be a $1 trillion market. It's a huge market. And companies like ours, new law companies, are going to be taking over a bigger and bigger chunk of the legal market. But I think we offer something entirely different to law firms. And a lot of our clients are law firms. So we help law firms
right.
In their peak periods. We help them flex up and down. So I think the whole nature, and I also think law firms are going to move in the direction of doing more expertise work. And I think they're going to use companies like LawFlex to be able to take on larger and smaller, to be able to flex their workforce. It'll be more efficient for them.
Okay.
So no, I don't think I think it's complementary and a complementary
Okay.
service.
All right. That's good. So how do you distinguish yourself from the other legal placement agencies, like in the US or like in Israel? Like there's got to be like legal placement agencies, like you just graduated law school, like you want to find something. Maybe you go somewhere and like, I still get document review emails. I did like one project once. But like, how do you distinguish yourself? These are higher level projects, or the vetting is different?
So I think a different type of lawyer wants to work. We only take lawyers who are over 8 years qualified, for example.
Oh, really? Okay, that's big. That's big.
Yeah, so I think there's a different audience of people who are looking for full-time employment, which, by the way, I still highly recommend for people who are early on in their career. I think you need to go through the grind in the beginning in order to know what you're doing. So there's a difference between the firms that are doing full-time placements and are run by HR. So firms like ours, for example, all of my employees are lawyers. Everybody who works for us are lawyers, because you really need to understand the projects and the client's needs for short-term placements and for flex work.
So if you send somebody to a firm for a specific area of law, and the firm really likes this person, how do they, but the person's a member of LawFlex, like, is there sort of like a contract term that they have to like pay you guys out, or like, how does that work?
Yeah, exactly. So there is a placement fee.
Okay.
We don't like it when that happens, obviously, because we lose good flex lawyers, but there's freedom of choice and people can choose. Yeah.
Right. Of course. Like some people will want to do something like that. Do you think you'll have a LawFlex in the US? I know you're sort of Israel based right now, even though you have people, like what jurisdictions are we looking at?
Yeah, so we already have a few great cooperations in the US with companies that are
Whereabouts? Where in the US?
In New York, we signed an agreement with a company called Gig Law, great company.
Gig Law, yeah. I actually featured the young lady over.
Haley, yeah.
Gig Law, cool. I'll have to tell her that we gave her a shout out on the podcast. You can do that too.
And we work with several other companies there. But yeah, eventually we will have a presence. And we have also a presence in South America currently. We're launching in France, so our ambitions are to be all over.
You ever hear of Dave Matthews? I think he's from South America, right? Do you know Dave Matthews?
The singer?
Yeah, the singer, yeah.
Yeah.
That's about the, okay. Anyway, but all right, that's awesome. So I'm super psyched to see you guys grow. Your company has been, it's really interesting, like to go on the website. I encourage everybody to go on the website and check it out. You do actually have a staff too who's working over there. And like Zohar, like, I don't know if you want to say anything about him. He's like your partner now. He's very well connected in, the Israeli legal market. Very nice.
Yeah, Zohar's like a legal celeb. I'm like, barely know how to use Facebook. Zohar is definitely our marketing guru. And he took it from an idea to reality. So definitely.
Great guy to connect with. Is there, I don't know if I missed anything. Is there anything else you want to tell our community here?
No, I think we covered everything.
Did we cover it? Wow. Very interesting. So you're happy though. Like you're happy you went from, you've had a great schooling experience, and then you went to a firm, you tried that, and now you have a startup, like a business and it's thriving, right? You made it all the way to the Lawyer Stories podcast. I mean, you guys are doing well.
Yeah, no, it's really been an amazing journey. We can do a whole nother talk about being an entrepreneur as opposed to a lawyer at a different time, but definitely been an amazing journey. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So do you have anything else you want to, what advice, like, what do you want to tell people who are going through law school? Like what advice, do you have any advice for anybody?
Absolutely. So two things that I would tell young lawyers that are starting out, because I meet about 10 or 15 lawyers a day.
Cool.
So first of all, your CV is super important. It's written in stone. So you can't go back and say, okay, I only did 6 months there. It doesn't look so good. Let me erase that. So whatever your path is, your CV, and it's a document that gets written slowly and that you can't change. So think about your career and plan it ahead of time. So that's one thing I would say. Secondly, within law, there's no such thing as being a lawyer. It's like 20 different careers. So you really need to decide what you want to go into. Is it criminal law? Is it family law? Is it corporate law? And try and find your passion, not what your parents expect or what society expects of you, because each one of them can be an amazing career path. So if you think you like something, then find somebody who's in that niche and go and work with them for a few days, go and sit with them, see if that's something you really want to pursue. And then go all out. Like once you choose your thing that you want, like become the complete expert in that one thing and don't jump around. And law can be a great career. You just have to choose the right thing for you.
Totally agree with that advice. I think finding a mentor is huge. Like if you could find somebody who's, what was your like specialty, by the way? Was it business or?
So it was corporate law, something that I found totally boring.
Like mergers and acquisitions and that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think, so I'm a big advocate of a mentor. Like, I think your schooling was sort of like, you go to school for a year and then you find a clinic, like a sort of, like doctors have to go through like their rounds and do all that. I mean, I think law, man, they should really be like setting you up with somebody. You say, I'm interested in this. And they should hook you up with that immigration lawyer, or put you in with that criminal defense attorney. Because I think some lawyers, and like I find this through lawyer stories, they're kind of floating out there, and then they end up doing some piece of the law that they're like, I didn't really sign up for that. So I 100% agree with your advice.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so do we have anything else to say today? Did you want to mention anything else about LawFlex or your crew?
Oh, I'm really excited to have been on Lawyer Stories. Thanks so much for your time and in speaking to me. And happy for anyone out there who wants to, who's over 8 years qualified and wants to become a flexible lawyer. We have great opportunities at LawFlex, so we'd be happy to get your application. Yeah, well, we hope to keep working with you and keep the relationship up here at Lawyer Stories, and that's at lawyer_stories on Instagram. We also have a Facebook page. We have a website, thelawyerstories.com, and we're hoping that Jackie has a nice blog post that we could put up for her regarding LawFlex. We'd love to do that on our website, thelawyerstories.com/blog. And thanks for being here. Like it's amazing. It's really great. I'm glad we finally got this. We got this underway. Yeah. Really cool to hear more about LawFlex. Thanks to everyone for listening. For sure. And wherever you are in the world today, enjoy yourselves.
The Lawyer Stories podcast is produced by Marketing the Law. Are you looking at your social presence every day? Potential clients are. Learn how to magnetize your brand with the help of Marketing the Law. Find us on Instagram at Marketing the Law to learn more.